Welcome to part 2. Previously on the Wave podcast by Subaru Mechanics, we talked about 3D printing. Here's a quick recap before we jump in.
We not only have Neeraj back on the podcast talking about some more 3D printed car parts and engines, but we have Mark on today as well. He said, how much for a 2.2 liter carbon fiber / plastic block? And I said, how much you got? I know a car that's running on canola oil that's probably on its way out.
Could you do that with like a flamethrower or something for the PPSCF? Is that a thing?
Neeraj,
Like, while we're thinking out of the box here, like, let's get the, I don't know, let's make this work. I'm invested now.
Yeah, fits
Legit.
perfectly. I can see it. It looks great.
Legit. That is a legit pan. Neeraj, I wanted to kind of jump back real quick to answer this guy's question of his 2.2 liter carbon engine that he wants printed by you. Do you plan on if you are able to 3D print an engine or these oil pans, are you planning on selling them? How expensive? Everybody wants to know where they can buy them today. And, what is your game plan? What are you thinking with this whole project?
Okay, so I'm probably going to do the oil pan first because
Makes
if
sense.
that doesn't work, then we know that the engine is pie in the sky, right?
Yeah.
So my plan is to use this oil pan as sort of a proof of concept, right? That we can print plastic engine parts. And sort of an aside thing, I actually looked at the windage tray on an EJ engine, and there's little plastic inserts in it already. So there are plastic parts inside the EJ crankcase already. Anyways.
Yes.
Yeah. So the question is, will I be selling this? Well, you know what? There's liability concerns, man. I sell this to somebody and their engine blows up, right? And I'm on the hook for selling them a part that, I guess wasn't tested enough, or there was some flaw in it. And the thing is with 3D printing is that it is hard to guarantee that every 3D print is exactly the same. Because there's, oxygen, there's air inclusions in the print, there's voids, there's small imperfections, But I will tell you this, and I'm going to be completely transparent here. The material to print this oil pan as it currently is out of PP probably looks to be under $200. So that's not bad, actually. When you look at things, it's pretty good. And that price could come down. And I'm talking Canadian dollars too. So that's
it's free.
Yeah. Right? Yeah, it's like 10 cents US, right? So, but you know what? And hey, I love the idea of once I've got this design working and sort of good to go, I love the idea of sending you one of these pans, Dave, and just getting you to maybe throw it on the Baja if you're, want to get rid of that engine anyways.
Let's talk.
Yeah.
Right? And then maybe play it by ear. Let's say, you know what? It works and it's all butterflies and rainbows and it's just perfect, and we hoon around in it and you run over curbs in it and it's just takes it all. There's a possibility that I think for sure people will want this, and I think for sure this could be superior to the existing aluminum pans on the market.
Neeraj, we have about a week that you could send it to Dave. He could put it on the Baja, and then Dave can drive to Michigan with this on the Baja.
No.
I'm in.
He's like,
No.
We're gonna be. We'll be testing. We'll be testing if canola
I got
oil
a car
freezes.
full of 3 people. I'm not doing that.
Chicken.
We'll be testing if canola oil freezes and if the oil pan explodes all in one go.
Yeah, take the PLA oil pan too.
Yeah.
No. But no, you hit a good point, Neeraj, about liability, and that you can't verify when it comes to 3D printing. It's a lot harder, I think, to verify someone's going to do it in the same conditions, and that sounds like an over exaggeration. But one thing that really comes to mind is our neighbor at the shop right across from us they do high end aerospace engineering.
Yes.
And I learned this one summer. I was talking to one of the guys there. I said, "Hey, what does it seem like always at 2:00 in the summers? You guys are out of here." I'm like, "You guys get out of here in the summers. You guys like to party or what?" And he goes, "No, we can't run our machines." I go, "What?" He goes, "We have a 7-degree tolerance. We have heating and cooling system in our shop. But if our machines get outside of a 7-degree tolerance window, we shut everything down.
Yeah.
7-degree window. He said, if anything changes outside of those 7 degrees, we shut the machines down. We don't machine anything because the variables change so much. And we're talking like aerospace level stuff where, yeah, this part needs to fit in 0 degree, negative 50,000 0 degrees. It needs to fit. And so,
Cold, man.
Yeah, they're really
Yeah.
about perfection. And I can appreciate that. That's why in the summer months, and I found that it now makes sense. In the winter months, they're there putting in the hours because it's like the optimum temperature. They're in the sweet spot with their heating system. They can really control the temperature. I guarantee you, here in Colorado right now, it's probably about, almost 10 o'clock right now, and they're still grinding because they have to. In the summer months, yeah, they get off early, but they also come in really early in the morning. I'll see those guys get in the summer months at like 3 in the morning. And I'm like, I'm not there, but I just see it on my camera sometime. I'm like, man, they're getting in at 3 o'clock in the morning, 3 a.m.
That's not
Yeah,
morning,
because
man.
they're going
That's
at
night.
2 o'clock. Because they're going at 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
Neeraj, I have to say, I hear through the grapevine, the Company 23 and Cartboy, they love liability. So if you're looking for somebody to sell this pan, I hear,
Dude,
you
it's-
know,
It's honestly an interesting point because liability is a thing, but at some point, like you do have to just make the decision. Like you can't engineer, like you as the aftermarket do not have the power of OE level, right? So trying to think of a good, like our end links, for example, we sell Cartboy end links. Like you could argue that a sway bar end link is a safety critical component to a vehicle, right? Like if that breaks while you're going down the road, you're probably not going to go careening off a cliff, but like it might make the vehicle feel, unsafe, maybe
Some
wobble a little
lawyer
bit.
might find you guys liable.
There is business insurance that you can get to cover for that kind of stuff. But at some point, like you're not an OE, I'm not an OE. You have to make your best engineering guess. And we've done this test, XYZ. We have our ducks in a row. Where if there was a problem and somebody came to us, here's our, our bundle of work and says, here's our conceded effort to do things the right way. That is a thing. And I think you'd be surprised. Like Cartboy and Company 23, for example, we take testing extremely seriously. Like we have SOPs and I actually built a fatigue tester for one of our products. Like we have everything that we can do, within reason, right? To give ourselves the warm fuzzies before we sell something. There are a lot of other companies in this market that don't give a and just design it and make it work and sell it. And that was when I came out of corporate America into the automotive aftermarket. That was a huge eye-opening thing for me. I was like, wait a minute, why do these other companies not put this thing through 10,000 cycles before they sell it? Like if this thing breaks, whatever company it was, that's not cool. And they just
losing money, not putting it out to market and finding out the hard way, which is stupid.
They let their customers do the testing, which is, in my opinion, frowned upon.
Yeah.
That's not what we do.
Yeah.
I'll say it. It's bullshit.
Agreed.
Yeah,
It's
man.
absolute, making your customers be the R&D.
I see this more than ever with software in cars.
Yes, that too.
The fact that cars can be updated over the air has made companies okay with pushing out garbage from the factory.
Dude, it's like everything. You look at video games now. If they release half the game and you get the other game, a year later, like it's ridiculous how things operate now. And you're right, dude. My car had a radio update that was like the radio has never worked properly, and I feel like it's always been a problem. And then I go to the dealer, I get a radio update, and even though I tell them stop calling me, they still call me. They still want to buy my car and whatever. I'm like, leave me alone. I work at a shop. I want nothing to do with you. It's like
yeah.
And I just feel like that's something that a lot of these companies are doing now. And so like, if you can find a solution to something like that, then it's a win.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like we obviously Company 23 Cartboy, we're not OE level. Like we don't have test engineers and all that stuff. But like I can say that, for example, like Dave, we haven't even officially launched it. It is on our website though. We have a new exhaust cam gear wrench for the exhaust cams on EJs. It's on our website. I tested that thing way more than any cam gear should. I almost broke an engine stand because I had so many extensions on that end of that wrench. I forget what
What?
the actual torque I got it up to was. 'Cause I was testing the welds. Like we made this. There's a heat treated steel cap that goes on top of the wrench, and it's welded on there. And I wanted to test the actual steel, and I think I had it upwards of 500 foot-pounds on it. And I had welded a cup off an exhaust cam gear to an engine stand, and I had dude, I had breaker bar, torque. I was all one big thing, and I have it on video somewhere, and it held. And I got to like over 500, I think, and I was like, "This no cam gears ever gonna see that, and if you
Yeah.
do, you're rounding the bolt." So
Yeah.
there's a
Yeah.
little bit of commonsensical approach to it too. I would have loved to see it break. Like that was kind of my goal, but over 500, I was like, I'm probably gonna hurt myself if this thing lets go. So
Yeah.
I'm still upset though about the fact that I never knew about the Company 23 Easter egg of the half-inch drive until I saw your guys' post, and I'm not kidding, Mark. It was like 9 o'clock on a Tuesday, and I drove up to work. I drove 20 minutes to
you
work.
did.
I opened my shop, undid the alarm, everything. I walked in my shop. I pulled every tool off my pegboard, and I pulled the handles off and confirmed that they all had it, because I was that mad at myself, not at you, but that I never figured that out.
Dude, okay, so funny story about that. I started with Company 23 in 2021. 2020, Company 23 has been in business since 2012 was year one. I remember I had a meeting with my boss, and I said something like torque multiplier, or like we needed an extension handle. I didn't know that that was on there either, and I had been a customer for years. And I told him that, and he's like, "Well, why didn't you just take the grip off? There's a 1/2 inch extension under the grip." And I was like, "No, there's not." And I did the same thing, dude. I went to my garage while I was on the meeting, and I came back, and I was like, "What?" It's like, "What? No, dude." I was like, "Dude, no one knows this." And he's like, "Oh, come on, everybody takes the grip off." And I'm like, "No one knows
No, they
this." And I was
don't.
like, "Watch it."
And that's what
And
I
I
mean. Your
posted it
post
on
was
social media.
amazing.
I posted it on social
Amazing.
media 4 years ago was the first time I posted it. And dude, the most viral post,
Blew up.
thousands of likes. People were like,
Blew
"No
up.
way." People were sending me pictures. They're like, "Oh my God." I'm like, "I didn't know either, dude."
After our video together, I went to my shop. My tech had your cam gear tool, and he has had it for like 12 years. It was in the bottom of his box. And I was like, "Dude, do you have that in there?" And he's like, "Yeah." He pulls it out, and I'm like struggling to pull the grip off. And it's like seized
Stuck on
on
there.
there, you know?
Never come
Like,
off.
he's like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "Just wait, it's gonna be awesome." I'm like in there like fighting it, you know. So I finally get it off, and he's like, "My God," he's like, "That's amazing." And I was like, "I know." I was like, "I just had to prove that it's there." I was like, it's,
That's funny, dude.
yeah. But
That's funny.
dude, obviously, again, Neeraj, if you need it, Subaru Mechanics LLC, I'll back you. Well, liability is the ceiling. Whatever it is, I'll put you under it. Don't worry about it. Not a
Yeah, it's
problem.
there's product liability insurance. It's honestly specifically around exactly what your concerns were. But to jump back to the oil pan, I was curious, where you're at in the design process, right? So it kind of looks like you've kind of modeled up the existing factory one, kind of as a proof of concept or whatever. Is there any low hanging fruit design wise that you've identified? Like, hey, I can 3D print this. Like maybe I can move the oil volume here or there, or what are your next steps before you get to put one on a running engine?
Okay, that's actually a great question because, one of the things that these pans, they all add capacity, right?
Mhm.
So I'm kind of matching the IAG pan in terms of capacity. I'm thinking plus 1.5 quarts. So I think it brings it to 6.2 quarts or something like that. Just having more
Mhm.
oil in there lowers oil temp and helps with the sloshing and such like that. But you're right. I sort of just based it off the factory oil pan so far. The tough part is going to come with sort of engineering the fluid dynamics of how the oil's flowing around that pickup. What I'm probably going to do is copy what's on the market. Not directly, obviously, but, do a similar,
Benchmark.
right? Yeah.
Don't say copy, say benchmark. It sounds better.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes. Right word. Yeah.
Ingress, yes.
Design some sort of baffle. I've got, some sort of baffle that I've 3D printed here, but, it's just sort of a mock-up that gets inserted. I'm still debating whether
Mhm.
or not I print the pan with the baffles as a part of the pan, or like the IAG pan where a baffle can be bolted in and removed. And I actually even had an idea of maybe designing my pan to fit the IAG baffle. That way you could just bolt an IAG baffle in and it has all those one-way valves in it. I'm still exploring the idea.
I'd be almost curious if there was, again, like kind of what Mark was hinting to, is maybe just do your own, as the old expression goes, kind of carve your own way. I wonder if people have been thinking about things to simplicity or simply, and where they're trying to just, combat, the things that they see on the surface. But like you were talking about improving oil flow, what if you could create some kind of, and again, I'm not far from the engineer type, but whether it be some kind of Venturi or almost like a vortex type effect. And I may be using the wrong terminology here, but like if you could create some kind of advantage in the pan design to where it, like you said, significantly increased oil flow.
I think there's definitely, with 3D printing, there's definitely an opportunity to just engineer the hell out of this thing. And you're right,
play with it.
Like ideal oil flow. I can also create, like, I can make the whole pan full of these sort of infill, almost like so that the pan itself acts like a sponge. There's many ideas.
Interesting.
There's also even, I've got a stock pan here. There's also this idea that on the stock pan, everybody notices it's got this sort of tube on it, right? And that tube goes down into the pan, and that connects to the sort of factory air oil separator. And there's some theory, nobody really knows for sure, but there's some theory around it saying that maybe Subaru's designed this so that it uses the vacuum from the oil pickup through that tube to scavenge the air oil separator plate and pull oil through, right?
So
yeah.
So something I'm finding interesting is I'm on Killer Bee's website, and they have the oil pickup for $153. It's crazy to me that you're saying that you could probably build this pan for under $200 when they sell their Super G cast high performance pan for $714. They sell their 3-piece EJ pan for $725. They have their performance series pan for $549.
Which are not egregious prices, by the way, for what they're doing potentially,
Well,
casting and all that.
They do also sell the Fumoto quick change valve, so that's a little but dude, they even sell their own temperature sensor adapter for $24. Like, they have a couple things on here that they design. The ultimate oil pickup baffle combo is $263. So like, seriously, like if you're able to design a pan that beats theirs for $714, like at that point, right? Like if you could even design the pickup, that's like a win. If doing the pickup is too involved, like dude, a pickup for 153 or 263 or whatever. I mean, dude, the combo, you're gonna be at like $450 versus like paying their $725 for everything. So like that's it's a pretty good deal.
And it's possible that my pan might have more features like an oil level sensor in addition to the dipstick, and spots for temperature sensors and a better sealing drain plug and all these things, and engineered fluid dynamics and scavenging and all this stuff. It's all
because
possible.
You have the luxury of playing with the design.
Yes, I have ultimate design flexibility.
On the fly, you could do this in a couple hours. And again, full transparency, I'd love for you to send us a pan for the Baja. We'll definitely do it. But that goes out saying, we could help you work through this process of going, well, let's see if this design works. Let's see if the design helps. Maybe if all of a sudden we put a pan on there, I don't know, maybe some people on the internet might call this being askewed, but you put your pan on it and it lasts for all the 3,000. They say, well, that's because of Neeraj's pan. It lasted 3,000.
What if it fails early, Dave?
Yeah. Well,
so yeah, it goes both ways. It goes both ways. So that's what I'm hitting towards. It just goes to say that, both of us are equally invested, I think, to say, to where, okay, if the thing blows up, well, everyone's going to be coming at both of us. If it last.
Now you can share the blame.
Everyone's going to say, well, either simply Subaru's is a genius with canola oil or Neeraj's oil pans saved the day. I think that's a narrative, and that's one of those things that 3D printing, the end all be all, it really affords you is that flexibility.
Now,
do that.
Neeraj, if you can design an oil pan that can keep the metal out of the canola oil so that people can have $10 oil changes, now we're talking. Now everything is in
metal
full
oil
swing.
sump. It actually removes the oil out separately in its own little reservoir. Hey, 3D printing, sky's the limit, right?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Man, I love
You need
science.
aluminum magnets, though.
Aluminum magnet.
Yeah, you don't want that metal ingressing into your engine.
Yes.
Man. Yeah, man. I mean, it's funny because I mean, I don't know if I'm wrong about this, but the narrative that I've had over the last couple of years is that Killer Bee has kind of been like this like in and out company. They've kind of been on the edge and they're trying to stay relevant, but I don't know, they've kind of been like not as prevalent as other companies. And I think
ever
that like
since their founder guy passed away, it's
Yeah.
not been great.
I see.
But like
That was a big thing.
But like, dude, this
You're
is
right,
a
Mark.
great, just speaking as a businessman, like this is a great opportunity for you to talk with a company that has had trouble finding their way back into this market to like come up with a really big, cool idea, right? Let them take the liability on the chin and like just kind of like run with a cool design, or like to be able to work with them on like you get their manufacturing power with your ideas and 3D printing, and like it's just like these are where these things are born, like I'm sure I'm gonna bring it up again. Matty Holtzberg, like, I'm sure he could have figured this out on his own, but instead he worked with Ford, and look, they produced a race engine and it worked. So like now he's working with other big manufacturers trying to find his way. And I think that like those conversations are huge, and being able to talk with a company like Killer Bee or like IAG or whatever, like that's really where you find your foothold, because you're able to like use your design and like their expertise in testing and like kind of finding a middle ground of like where that lands, because something that you and I talked about is like obviously you don't have 25 Subarus on standby to like run this thing on and test it. So I think that like when it comes to that, right, you just need to call up Mark at Company 23 and say, hey, I need 25 Subarus, test the oil. So
Get him on Turo.
I got you one Baja at least.
No, not Turo. That's hilarious.
No, but I think what you said is right. Sometimes I get caught up in this, I don't have to do it all alone, right?
Well, it's tough. I get it. Like, you don't want to take the risk either of like putting your stuff out there to another company. It's like, it's tough. So,
but I do think that I'm not obviously 100% familiar with this, but me posting this on Facebook sort of first before going to talk to other people and talk to companies about it is proof that this was my idea right from the get-go, in the sense that if this idea gets
100%.
stolen or something like that, I have some sort of protection here, in the sense that, there's proof a little bit.
If Mark comes out and 3D prints an engine tomorrow,
Yeah.
It won't be me. It'll be Schmork Solution.
Yeah. EJ dot.
Some Chinese can consider that would be bad.
Maybe.
Something I find interesting is that something we talked about in the 3D printing group with car parts is that like we were talking about, if you come up with an STL and you share it, right? Like, are you releasing your rights to it? And like, they were saying that like the community has kind of been built on sharing and like people building off of the different things that have been released. And they were saying that like you can put in an STL like this is a copyrighted project, or this is something that is private and cannot. Apparently, in the STL itself, you can put that this is only for private use, and if you try to sell it commercially, there will be consequences, kind of thing. And so, like, if it's something that Neeraj is working, let's say Neeraj, right, with this oil pan, let's say he put the STL out there for anybody else to mess with, he could put in the STL like, if this is ever seen in production, you will be found liable. Like for.
I did not know you could do that.
3D printed engine that we built at the shop, it was shout out to Eric the pool boy. I've been talking with him about getting him on the podcast as a future episode. Love to have you on again, Neeraj. But he did a full not 1-to-1 scale, but I don't know the math, but like a scale model of a fully functioning Subaru EJ motor. And yeah, it literally says in the file, this is for free. If you sell it, I'm coming after you. And
Yeah.
that's why we reached out to him, because we got, no exaggeration, millions of requests in our inbox. I didn't ever expect this, but I woke up one morning. I was actually out at PRI, and I woke up to like 300 messages in my inbox, all asking, can I place an order for this 3D printed engine? And I actually figured out how to task an AI bot to basically respond to everyone with the same thing. No, we are not the owners of this file. We can't license it. We are not able to sell this.
This is
But
a
that's why I reached out
fascinating
to Eric, the
discussion to
pool
me.
boy, and said, hey, you know what? I'd love to talk to you about licensing this thing with you and selling it, because I have a lot of people that are very interested in buying this.
So this is a fascinating discussion, because if you publish your STL on the internet, even if you put a watermark on it or whatever you put in there, what grounds do you have to go after anybody else for selling it or not?
You're not
have-
wrong, because my buddy has done that, and he's put up some STL files that have said the same thing, and he's had a bunch of people plagiarize and copyright and steal it, and they said, I tweaked one thing in the file, I just tweaked one dimension, I put a little horn on it, and now it's mine, and so go f yourself. And he said, you know what, to me? I said, well, what are you gonna do about it? He said, it's not worth going after him.
Yeah, you need a deep pocketbook to do anything, and even
The
then,
law
So maybe we just do that to Eric the wool boy. But luckily,
I do
to his
not
credit, I've
recommend
reached
that,
out to
Eric,
him.
when you're on the podcast.
Yeah.
If he doesn't come on, then
yeah, if he doesn't come on, then maybe we just steal his file and we put some horns on it and call it, just baiting Eric to come on.
As far as I know, the law with reusing a logo, like the reason why anybody can reprint the word Subaru is that it has to be 10% different. I think it's only a 10% difference that you can then claim it as your own and you can resell it. So it's
simply
not
Subaru.
it's not a huge difference, but like I think that's the same with like an STL. If it's 10% different, then it's like technically your own,
And then you got to be able to stand up in front of a judge someday when the lawyers get that far and say, all right, quantify the 10% and show me, and like
Have an apostrophe.
Yeah, but Neeraj is 3D printing money at this point, so he could pay anybody.
The reason I'm so hot to trot on this specific topic of IP and who did what is because shit I have designed has literally gotten knocked off by Schmork Solutions out of Florida. I mean, Schmorda. And it drives me nuts because it's literally taking money out of my pocket.
I've seen some of your stuff get ripped off before.
I have
multiple times,
to a
actually.
T. There's literally geometry on my flywheel locker that's only there. The surfaces are not parallel because it bulges out. I'm getting hot. I get hot talking about this. There's geometry on there that's only for our logo. It fits the sticker. And when they knocked it off, they kept the geometry exactly the same. And I'm like, come on, man.
Come on.
Like,
Absolutely ridiculous.
Tweak it something, right?
Like full disclosure, we don't have any patents on that. So technically, per letter of the law, that is fair play. But I'm like, man, you're already doing the CAD work for it. Like,
it's a dick move.
Change it a little bit.
It's just a dick move.
It's just like,
it is.
Like we have actually upped our IP strategy and everything that we're doing to protect ourselves from that exact scenario. So we take a look at individual products, and we'll patent them as needed, or if we think there's enough secrecy as far as the design or the materials or whatever, we may not necessarily, because patents aren't cheap. But yeah, man, it's like, I don't know.
Yeah.
There's a lot of assholes in the world, I guess. So regardless of what you're doing, and then Neeraj, you got the different countries thing. So the Canada protection versus U.S. protection.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And
I'm
different.
kind
And
of
the thing is, like, no, and China will find a way, or people in China will find a way to knock off your product regardless of what you do. And I think just what you said, including specific geometry, that's sort of like proof that this was your design sort of thing, helps to a certain extent where people actually respect the laws, right? That'll help you in North America and Canada, but in China, they just don't care.
Yeah, we do the same thing. We pick different countries and then
if I take my 3D printed engine and I send it to China and I say, hey, copy this and make this for me, now Eric's out of the cut.
I always look at the YouTube videos about all of the cars that have been copied in China, and like the videos are hilarious because they make exact copies of these cars, but they're like way cheaper and way worse. But like they're saying that the Chinese government is responsible for going after these people because nobody else can. And when they press on the Chinese government, they just say, well, we don't care because we're driving a $20,000 Rolls Royce. Yeah. I mean, dude, this is kind of like the world of 3D printing now. I think it's like, this is how I feel about the world of AI too. It's like you just don't know what's what. And it's like, people used to say like Pixar didn't happen. And now I'm like, I can't even trust the pics. I don't even know what's happening. Everything's fucking made up. It's like so ridiculous.
Things are moving like way too fast for us to like process even.
Yeah.
You know,
Something
I wonder if
Neeraj
we're gonna
that
go back to like old days and we're just gonna like
yeah.
revolt against like
Neeraj,
all AI.
something that I brought to your attention on the last episode that I have received way more inquiries about as well is this. Something that was posted in our Subaru Rare Parts group is somebody asked if there was a left-hand version of these charged speed covers for the older, WRXs.
yes.
And I had asked you, I said, how easy would it be if you could get your hands on one of these covers to scan it and 3D print a right-hand drive version to flip the scan? And you said it was very easy, would be super simple. And I have still received inquiries about this, people asking me if you've done it yet. And I find that
But no one
hilarious.
sent Neeraj the parts.
No one sent me one.
Yeah, and that's been the problem, is that everybody's been saying if they could just get their hands on one, they would scan the whole thing, flip it to right-hand drive so that people in the US can start making these, but like all of them are left-hand drive is the problem. So it's just funny to me, and like, this is one of those things that since our episode, since it got so much attraction, I've had people messaging me about this being like, when is this gonna happen? And I'm like, I don't control this. Like, I just,
You know what? I've actually gotten so many people message me asking for the STL of the engine block and asking for the STL of the oil pan. Just people just messaging me. I'm just like, guys, come on. You really think that I'm just gonna like?
Throw
I
it out
understand the
there.
3D printing community is built around open source and that sort of stuff. But I'm not even done yet. Give me a minute.
Yeah, that's a fair analogy. You're not even done yet. It's like, wait, guys, let me like type this a little bit.
Not just that,
let
but
me do
you
the
never-
experiment.
Yeah, but you never know either if there's like a 15-year-old kid on the other end of this who's like, I'm just gonna throw whatever I can that's the cheapest on my car, and I'm just gonna print it in my bedroom, Then all of a sudden he's blowing up an engine, and he's like, Neeraj, send me this STL.
Yeah, but this is not some 3D printed little shelf bracket. You know what I mean?
That's right.
Like, that's not the same thing.
Or they send it to China.
That too. That
God, yeah.
yeah.
And they butcher it.
So no, I probably won't be
Yeah.
sharing the STL. If anything, I'll be printing them. That way I can control everything about the process. But I don't want to
sending
make
us
it
an oil
easy for
pan.
people.
Yeah.
I'll send you an oil pan for sure, Dave.
Yeah.
That's
the
the
thing
next on the list.
that's the thing I've always appreciated about you, Neeraj, is just the way that you've spoken to people in the comments and the ways that you have gone about your business with this is like, it is your project. Like, I feel like with anybody who has a business or has a good idea, is like they want to just stick by their project and they want to build it until it's where they want it to be, and then they decide what they're going to do with it. And like, I think that with 3D printing, there's a lot of pressure to share, and that why are you holding this back? But it's like, it's not anybody else's project, and they haven't put the time and the effort into it that you have. So I think that it's great that you are sharing the things that you can share with the community, and I think that it's giving people ideas without giving them, it's like doing other people's homework for them. It's just not worth it, because at the end of the day, you're doing the work. And I think that with your masters and like everything that you're working on, it's amazing. The work that you're doing is amazing, and it might change Subarus forever. We just don't know. But I think that in the meantime, like, it's really cool to talk about and really have these hypotheses about what's possible. And I think that it brings a cool conversation to the Subaru community about what's coming and what's next. So, I think that we can all appreciate that. And for anybody who's listening, get off his case. Stop asking for things.
Not to mention, but I feel like CAD is one of the worst offenders in terms of not appreciating what actually it took to get there. Like,
Yeah.
when someone goes online and you go on GrabCAD, and I do this all the time, it's wonderful. Like, we're getting a 4-post lift for our development shop, right? I can go on GrabCAD and I can hit a button and I can download, parametric featured model of a 4-post lift. That's great. It took me 3 seconds. Some poor bastard that did the model
Yes.
probably has 2-3 days of their life invested into this. Like, it takes an extreme amount of time that until you actually do it, you have no appreciation for. Like, I'm assuming this oil pan, you probably modeled a certain distance and then had to backtrack and start over and then do it again. You're sitting there with calipers, you're taking measurements off the JPEG, like the amount of work that goes into it. Someone just says, "Yo, send me the STL." I'd say, I have 12 hours of this thing. No way, dude.
Amen.
Like,
Well,
Amen.
like
I'll tell you
you're
one
way
thing, like,
nicer. No way, dude. Also, just not sending you my paycheck either, so go away. But
Yep.
like, CAD is the worst because you look at this picture and you're like, it's done. Send me the file. That's great. When you have absolutely no appreciation of the blood, sweat, and tears that went into making that, and it's not just it's you. You only see the end result. You don't see all the trials and tribulations it took to get there.
It's like
well,
video
you know what?
editing. Same thing. For a 5-minute
Dude,
video,
yes,
all of a sudden
yeah,
it takes 10 hours.
yeah. You do like 2 hours to do a 15-second clip of a little arrow going up to Michigan, you know?
Yeah.
Oh, this is gonna be the
Well,
worst
Mark, you know
video
what?
ever.
This is version number 10, this oil pan,
Yeah, see, exactly.
right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and you know what? I had so
And
many
give it to
people
me for
message me,
free.
right? And yeah, and people were like, "Oh, share the SEO," and I'm like, "You know what? I'm not really willing to do that." And they're like, "Oh, okay, like I'll just like for the engine block especially." They're like, "Oh, I'll just do it myself then. I'll just model it myself."
Okay.
And nobody
Go
Oh,
ever
wait.
for
does.
it, dude.
Nobody
it.
ever does, you
No,
know,
no one
because
ever
like,
does.
they find out 5 minutes into it that maybe it's not as simple as just putting it together.
Neeraj, the guy who messaged me about the 2.2 liter carbon fiber block, the conversation did not end there. Like, my
Oh.
wife was roasting me about this because she's like, I was like, I don't understand why these people don't understand that I'm joking. Like, there's no way this is real. And she was like, you're being too serious. They're understanding what, they think this is real. So I told this guy, he said, I have no clue what your turnaround time is and the cost of raw materials, but give me an idea of how long it'll take and print me one. And so,
Hey man, you know what? If he wants to give me 20 grand,
yeah,
he could just buy a billet block, right?
So,
Give me
so
20 grand,
let
I'll
me
do
put it
it.
this way. So I messaged him back and I said, everything we've talked about on the podcast is prototype mode, untested. I said, if we were actually going to produce one, it would depend on the price of the filament and what it takes to produce. And he goes, so you want $1,200 is what you're saying. And he says, if so, was his exact message to me. And I said, I have nothing to do with this. I said, Neeraj came up with the design. I said, everything is a prototype.
He probably messaged me and then I didn't give him the answer he wanted.
Yeah.
So he went to you.
And then this is my favorite, Neeraj. She messages me and goes, you can charge more and I can help advise it. He goes, whenever you're ready, you call me. I said, I'll pass it along.
But well, it's been passed along. Thank you, Patrick.
But like, dude, that's what's so funny is like these people think it's just open, like send me whatever you got. And it's like, it would be like calling Ford and being like, hey man, I know you guys spent a long time making that engine, but I need you to send me how you did it right now for free. I don't want it.
Hey, Ford, I want you to make me the fastest car you've ever built. And when you're ready to fucking talk to me, call me.
$1,200.
You know what I'm gonna say? You know
Yeah,
what I'm gonna say?
$1,200. Ford's like, okay, we're
You know
never
what? I'll
returning
tell you-
that phone call.
Yeah, I'll tell you right now. anybody in the Subaru community, if you have ever needed something and you go to the Subaru dealer and they pull up the diagram of the engine and the exploded view and everything, that is still garbage compared to what Subaru has. So that would be like going to Subaru and being like, hey, this blown up diagram that your dealer has is not doing it for me. I need the exact specification. I need the measurements. I need you to send me every file you have on this engine for free because the dealer ain't doing it for me. You know, it's like, it's just, to me, it's like ridiculous. It's like,
I mean,
what do you,
As a shop owner, all I can say is good luck. As Liam Neeson famously said, good luck.
Master CAD files that basically exist of the actual vehicles down to the every dimension tolerance, those things are held so closely to the vest that you wouldn't believe it. Because if those ever got leaked, that is the secret sauce. That's the tolerancing. That's the fit. That's where the money is, right? So like other jobs I've worked at in the past, like they're so careful with IP, like you couldn't actually use a USB flash drive. All the company computers were locked out. So you had to use approved file sharing methods. And that's the secret sauce, man. So
I mean,
I've worked at shops that did proprietary work where you could not have a cell phone.
Yes. Yep.
You put a cell phone in a locker, and if you got caught with a cell phone on premises, you were immediately terminated. That was part of the agreement. It's a cease and desist. It's you do not share company information, and this is all proprietary. We've done the R&D, like you said. We have the R&D to swap this engine into that car, every wiring switch, every harness, every merger.
Dude.
If you want to do it, go ahead. But that's our bread and butter.
When I worked at Polaris, for a couple of years, you know, early 2000s or 2010s. And Razor 1000 came out in model year 2014. They had like started shipping them to dealers, but it was so hush hush. It was like the top secret, like, but they timed it so like when they released the vehicle, they were in dealers like ready to buy almost immediately. That was like strategy at the time. And so they had everybody under CDA, they had everybody under NDA, everybody on the assembly line, truck drivers, everything, like whole way down the pipeline, right? Like these vehicles were secret. A truck driver, and I'm pretty sure you can find the picture if you still Google it. A truck driver somewhere snapped a picture of it and posted it on Razor Forum like July of 2013. That dude got sued out the ass. They went after him with the full letter. Polaris was pissed.
My God.
They do not mess around with that.
Well,
rightfully so.
You know, I've worked at Ford for a lot of years, and the one thing about Ford I always found hilarious is that they are so restrictive on their front bumpers. If you take a core in for a bumper, there's always a core on a Ford bumper. They don't want anybody to scan it and make like Chinese copies and everything. So they force you to send back a core no matter what. Even if you cut out a piece of the bumper this big and slap the label on it, you have to send something back or else you can never order a Ford bumper again. They are like, wow, they're so restrictive about their bumpers. And like, I used to work in the warehouse where we would take all this stuff in and like, you know, process it and everything. And like a lot of times you would get the full bumper, but like most of the time you would get a piece of the bumper like this big with like just a label slapped on it because you had to return something. And if you didn't, then they would like blacklist you. And it was like so big because
is ironic because I have a Ford Transit Connect and I have an aftermarket Chinese bumper on it right now.
You know, they tried to be really on top of that stuff, and a lot of like in the mid 2010s is when they were like big on it. You know, nowadays they're down to like 5 cars that they sell, so I don't know how big they are on it now, but like
I like to think about Jeff Goldblum. Life finds a way.
Yeah.
You know,
and
Patrick,
Chinese manufacturers, they find a way. They'll buy anything and just reverse engineer it if they want. They don't give a shit.
They are 3D scanning and 3D printing full-size bumpers now.
Yeah.
Made of plastic anyways.
Yeah. I mean, dude, that's what's so crazy. I mean, it's just there's so many things that like it's like again, it's like how do you keep it out of people's hands? Like even if you started printing these oil pans, the first person you sell it to, right, may have a 3D printer, he scans it and then boom. It's like no matter what, like the only thing is, right, that you have the you have the jump on it. Like, you're ahead of the curve on it. They got to figure it out. But something that Mark told us back in the first episode we had Mark on was that Mark was talking about Nespresso and how nobody else could figure out how to replicate what they did. So instead of putting a copyright on it and like kind of holding it back, they kind of put it out in the open and they were like, try and make it. You can.
Trade secret.
I've heard the same thing about Coca-Cola, is that they don't patent it because then that would release information about it that they don't want to share.
Yeah. The whole idea of a patent is that in exchange for literally teaching everybody else how to do it, you get 20 years or whatever. So, but yeah, like 3M, Post-it note adhesive, Coca-Cola formula, new Nespresso, Virtuo, pot, all that stuff. Go for it. It's trade secret.
They're just like, you figure it out.
Yeah, if you can figure it out, dude, you'd be billionaire. But Post-it note adhesive, for example, has been around for, God, 40, 50, 60, 70 years, something like that. And
God damn, you're right.
It's been
You're
around
right.
forever.
And
So like,
something
figure
I
it out.
mentioned,
We'll wait.
something I mentioned last time was that there are engineers that their whole job is investigative engineering. So like
Reverse
I have-
engineers.
I had a friend who he was working on a case where somebody was using what's it called? What's the machine that makes seltzer?
SodaStream.
The at-home one?
Yeah.
SodaStream.
So SodaStream, they had a big lawsuit because somebody blew their hand off because it overpressurized, and when they went to pull the bottle out, it just like exploded. And so he was doing all of this testing and trying to figure out how it happened so that they could take it to the lawsuit in court and everything. And come to find out that when you put the bottles in the dishwasher, it rounds the top of it into an oval. And then when you put it in the machine, it doesn't seal properly and it overpressurizes it. It doesn't know when to stop. So when she went to go reach for it, it had like overpressurized. And when it went to release, it just exploded in her hand.
Yeah.
And-
I saw that video too.
And
Yeah,
you know what?
so, like-
Shit, there's a video?
I didn't know there was a video.
Yeah, there was a video. And I thought it was just a viral thing of like someone just being stupid. But no, I remember that video. It literally exploded in her face. I saw that.
Yeah. So you know, my buddy, his company was working on this and they investigated it, and you know, they found that out. And like, that's what these big companies pay people to do, is figure out, hey, somebody made this or somebody did this. We need to figure out how. I don't care if you have to buy 100 of them. You know, my cousin, actually, his roommate works at Roush in Michigan, and
Yeah.
he's the one who designs the Ford GT and runs the wind tunnels at Roush. And he said, if you go to Roush, you will not find a Ford in the shop. He said, because when you walk in, it's Lamborghini, it's Ferrari, it's every car brand that you can imagine, that they are trying to figure out how their aero works and how they engineered it. And they are literally just taking car after car, putting it in the wind tunnel, recording data, trying to figure out how they did it. And
What do you know that we don't know?
And so he was like, they have a whole team and their whole job is just to buy Ferraris, buy Lambos, buy McLarens, and they just rip them down to nothing. And they try to, you know, after they put them in the wind tunnel, they get all their data, they put them back in the shop, they tear them down, and they try to figure out what's going on. And it's to me, that's amazing. I think that it's like, you know, somebody figured something out and now it's your turn to try to get what they figured out of them. You know, it's like, it's crazy.
Yeah, reverse engineering sucks.
Yeah, for real.
That sucks, dude. It's so frustrating. Like when you work
Yeah.
on a clean sheet design, Neeraj, you could probably attest to this too. Like when you start from scratch, you learn as you go, and you like learn everything yourself as you go. When you have to like try to figure out what someone else did years ago and like do it backwards, man, it's so hard. Like it's
Sometimes their decisions just make no sense. Like you just can't
Yes,
figure out
amen.
why.
Amen.
Why did they
I've
do
had
it
to
this
figure
way?
that out. And that's
Yeah.
one of my pet peeves when it comes to like from a electrical prowess that I have, is I like to wire things really concentrically to where our current shop car that we have built, although the entire wiring harness of the car is pretty much custom built, and every single end of every wire for every connector and on each end is labeled with a heat shrink label and clear heat
Nice.
shrink label protecting, so you know what each end of the wire goes to. This is control for the left side power. This is control for the left side power ground. Everything is individually labeled. So if I were to, or we were to ever, let's say, sell this vehicle, Doesn't matter. There's a bunch of aftermarket wiring on this car. Every single wire from both ends is individually labeled what it goes to.
Yeah, I did not do that on my kit car. God. It's a nightmare trying to trace back the wiring.
Call me next time. Call me next time, Neeraj. I got you.
Something
I do as a hobby. I love wiring.
Dave,
I'm a weird guy.
Something I've been thinking about for a future WRX Files, maybe a future episode coming up, is again, like what you guys were talking about, is like why these decisions were made, why people design things a certain way. Something that has always kind of stuck with me and has always bothered me is I've always felt like timing belts were engineered failure. I've always felt like timing chains can go to okay. There's no reason why a timing chain should ever fail unless they start to make noise or they start to be a problem. And I've always felt like these dealerships thought if we make it a belt, we can make it this big service. And if you bury it somewhere in the engine, it's somewhere that you have to get to, and it's something that has to be done every 100K, and we can maintenance it. And then
I disagree.
And then I started to realize that
too.
like, I felt that like, in the sense of cost and things like that nature, it may have been something that maybe was an oversight, but like when you think about Hondas, they're interference engines. If that belt goes, the engine explodes. You know what I mean? Like, it's just,
I get that.
I just don't
I guess my
understand
problem
why
is
they
I
would
think
do
the
that.
engineers acknowledge one thing, is that there's inherent wear. Wear is going to take place. It doesn't matter. It's all about of displacing the wear. So where are you going to put the wear? And when it comes to a belt versus chain, when you encompass a chain, you now have to have lubrication. So it has to be encompassed inside of a timing cover. So it has to be lubricated by engine oil. And now you have timing chain guides and tensioners. Tensioners have to be in place for any kind of timing element. Doesn't matter whether it's a belt or chain. And so if you have a timing tensioner, you now have to have something applying tension onto that belt or that chain. When you have the case of a chain, yes, you're right. It lasts twice as long as a belt, 200,000 plus miles, 250,000 miles. But when that chain eventually has a problem, it's not the chain. And sometimes the chain does stretch. Chains do inherently stretch. Same do belts. But the biggest thing is that you inherently deal with the wear factor of wearing on the guides. And when it comes to a belt scenario, yes, belts do break down. However, with current modern advancements of belt technology and impregnating them with carbon fibers and things like that, to where they don't stretch the same way, and they don't with better Vitron rubber?
Yeah.
Viton rubber, you now have belts that last longer, and they're not susceptible to dry rot, things like that. I think a belt is marginally more serviceable, and I'd rather have a serviceable component than something that encompasses me taking half the engine apart, which in the Subaru scenario, and honestly any other scenario from a mechanical standpoint, as we are the Subaru Mechanics Group, if you have to take an engine timing cover off with a chain, and you have to reseal that timing cover, you better pull that engine out. You better put that on a stand. You better tilt it 45 degrees backwards to make sure no oil drips onto the sealing surface. And so there's no way feasibly you can do this on the car, comparative to a timing belt, which I can pop in new cam seals. I can pop a new belt on, new timing idlers and rollers and tensioners, and call it a day every 100,000 miles. It's, for us as a shop, I'll just tell you, brass tack, it's cheaper. I would make less money if I sold timing belt jobs than I do timing chain jobs, because guess what? By the time you have a timing chain issue, whether it be extreme, 250,000 miles, you have a chain slap issue, a timing guide issue. I have to fix that. Guess what? I guarantee you have timing cover leak. I guarantee you have cam cover leak, cam carrier seal leak, valve cover gasket leak, and upper oil pan leak, which is causing oil and coolant in the Subaru to contaminate themselves, which is the modern head gasket that Subaru owners think. I have a head gasket problem in a 2017 Subaru. No, you don't. Your upper oil pan O-rings failed, and now you have a mixture of oil and coolant. Sorry, I have to pull your engine out and reseal the entire engine to do it right. That's about $4,000 to $5,000 versus No, I know it's $1,000, $1,200 to do a timing belt job on a Subaru. A lot cheaper.
Something that brought this to my attention recently was that Matt, who you met at Boxerfest, he has a 17 Civic Si, and he had this awful chain rattle. And turns out that the Honda Civic SIs, the 2017s, their timing chains are oil pressure driven. So when he dropped an oil pressure, the chain was just making this god awful noise. And then he ended up needing an engine.
I guess my problem is maybe I'm just biased in this comment, but I'll just say it. Both Honda, even Toyota, the king of the crop, they're both falling on hard times because you know what? If you look at Consumer Reports and everything, Honda and Toyota have had massive amounts of engine failures over the last couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
And meanwhile, last time we reported on this, Pat, as you remember, Subaru won the best award for the most reliable, most dependable, and highest owner satisfaction. So I think that Subaru's doing something right, and Toyota Honda might want to take a page from Subaru's book.
You heard it here first. 3D printed engines. They are crushing it. Car driver.
Subarus are easy to be reliable when their 2.5 liter FB engine makes 86 horsepower.
Nah,
dude, those can't get out of their own goddamn way.
It is interesting how a lot of these car manufacturers have gone from making a 6-cylinder to making a 4-cylinder turbo to make up for the power. But the 4-cylinder turbos are having oil in the turbos. They're having issues with the engines. It's just like you're getting rid of one problem to make another. It's like, I just don't really understand that. But, once Neeraj figures all this out, we won't have any problems. Everything's going to be 3D printed.
Everything will be solved. Yes.
Yes. Thank you, Neeraj.
Hey, Patrick, you want an EJ engine with the timing chain?
Yes, I do.
Let's go.
Make it happen. Let's go.
Right? But I do agree with Dave. I would rather change a timing belt twice than do a timing chain once.
Yeah, I could see that.
I mean, my opinion is that EJs came with belts because they're a lot cheaper for Subaru to build. And I think that was from a time where people actually fixed their cars and kept them on the road.
That's
now
valid.
It's like, I want to buy, let's look at the average Subaru consumer here. As much as we want to admit it, it's not the enthusiast, right? You go to a Subaru dealership, you go buy a Crosstrek, you change the oil every 5,000 miles, and you expect it to live for 300,000 miles, right? They're not changing. They don't want to do anything. They don't want to change a timing belt. They don't want to do spark plugs. Man, the average consumer is going to bring it into the dealer and go, do the 30,000 mile service, do the whatever. And they want to do nothing else.
Leave
so
me
I think
alone.
Subaru very smartly is all right, we'll make a 2.5 liter that makes probably under 200 or around 200 horsepower, which is very mild. And, you can cruise and get 30 miles to the gallon with all-wheel drive and take your dog to the dog park.
250,000 miles.
Nail on the head.
Yeah. Subaru is not dumb. Everybody's like, they don't care what the enthusiast thinks. I'm like, depending on their upper level management, probably not. They're a business, right? So if they have a team of engineers, they could stick 10 engineers to build the badass performance B STI that we all want, or they could put the 10 engineers on a XV or Crosstrek or whatever that's going to sell 50 times the units and more profit for the shareholders and all that crap.
Damn it.
Mark,
you're right.
They're a business. They're here to make money. But at the end of the day, it's my understanding that Subaru's C-suite management has had a changeover in the last few years, and they're more about the old school heritage and racing and all that stuff, in addition to making money, which is why I think we're seeing the resurgence of race cars and this new STI and everything.
Mark, I think you're right.
At the end of the day, I can't fault them.
Mark, you're always right. God damn it.
Yeah.
No, but seriously, there's been this race to sort of minimal amount of maintenance cost in the first 5 years. If you have to do a timing belt in the first 5 years, that number skyrockets. If your timing chain is at the 6-year mark, your 5-year cost, ownership cost is way lower. And I also think, look, I see what you're saying about the Outbacks and the Foresters selling more, but I think sometimes people need something to get excited about, even if they're not going to, right? They're not going to buy an STI. The idea of the Halo car gets people excited about the brand too.
Mm-hmm.
You're right. You're right.
And, Dave, you and I had an episode on the Halo car, I think it was like 1 or 2 episodes ago, about how, like, it doesn't make sense for them to keep walking away from the STI because that's the car that is the advertising. That's the car that pumps out and gets people excited and gets the media and, like, like, when the Tokyo Auto Show happens and everybody's expecting this great car and you come out with like a whatever, I think, like, you saw all the posts. It was just dead silence. Nobody cared. But, like, when you come out with a crazy STI that you're going to be producing, right? It's like, yes, you might not sell a bunch of those cars, but it's getting everybody else who loves the brand to look at it and to see it and to be like, and again, Mark, I would love your take on this. Last episode got me pumped up because we were talking about this subscription thing. And, like, I think it's a great idea. I think that if there was a price that you can come to, like Cadillac did, even though they failed at it, where, like, 2 times a month you could go to the dealer and you could swap a car. You could be like, you know what? I'm going on a weekend adventure. I need a Crosstrek. Then you go and you swap it at the dealer. You're like, all right, I got to go back to work. I'm going to get an Impreza base model or whatever. And then you go back there and you're like, I want to go mess around on the weekend and go to Boxer Fest. I'm gonna take an STI for the weekend. That Cadillac had this great idea. It was too expensive and, like, didn't really match their base. But, like, they had this idea of, like, what if you just paid monthly and you could just take an Escalade for the weekend and then come back and grab a CTSV and then, like, okay, you're done with that. Here's an ATS or whatever. Like, the thing about Subaru is that people buy what they are able to get in the seat of and drive. Something that Dave and I talked at, where I actually flipped Dave's opinion on it, was Dave was saying that, like, it doesn't make sense. But when I started to explain that, like, imagine if you could have driven every model of Subaru, it would totally change your idea of what you want to own long term and what you want to buy.
Yeah.
If you had the chance to drive a different Subaru every week on a subscription program, you might be like, you know what? 24-hour test drive is not enough for me.
The Outback's for me.
I need to be in an Outback for a full week to really feel like if this is the car for me. There's people that stick to the cheapest possible car ever because they don't see the value in what the Premier or the limited cars offer. They don't understand a heated steering wheel and heated seats and what that offers. But if you had a subscription program where you could take one for a week and you have all these options, you're going to be like, damn, I've been missing out for years. I'm going to buy this thing because and I think that, like, that is great. And then also for you guys, for testing purposes, if it's $900 a month, you're like, I'll pay the $900 a month and I'll go swap out every car they got.
I could see, definitely for the average consumer, I could see that being very valuable, like, pre-purchase. I don't know if I'd want to do it forever. But man, yeah, totally. Like, here's $500 for 2 months. Like, let me get a week with each model, dude. Yeah, that would actually be really handy.
Like, dude, do you go to the dealer and these guys just want you to make a decision, or you tell them that you've always owned Forester, so they're only going to show you Foresters? Like, you need to have the opportunity to drive everything and get a full feel of what these cars offer. And like, Cadillac messed up because their base is able to buy these cars and they didn't want to try everything. They know what they want and they want to own it. With Subaru, it's like,
I want an Escalade. I don't give a shit what it is. I want an Escalade.
Yeah. With Subaru, it's like there are people who have always driven a Forester that they might get in a BRZ and be like, damn, I feel awesome in this car. And like,
guess what? Maybe they keep the Forester and buy a BRZ too.
They might say, hey, this subscription is a little expensive to keep long term, but for 2 months for me to just get to be in the driver's seat of a BRZ for a week and an Outback for a week and an STI for a week, and then at the end of it you go, I can't help it, but I love this BRZ, and then you go and you buy one.
I think it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Are you gonna start it and buy all the cars or what?
I'm gonna be the next Turo.
Pat sold me.
You're going to be hitting me up like, hey, you got this model in stock.
Yeah.
But, so that was my little rant. But I appreciate you guys so much. I think this was a great episode, and like I feel like a lot of questions I had for Neeraj and like where you're heading were answered. And I think that this community loves seeing these episodes and they love seeing where you're going. And it just really starts up with a conversation every time of like what is possible for these cars and where this platform could go. And I think that Mark, you added a lot to this conversation today. I'm happy that you were here because having an engineer's take on what's possible. I love that he was able to explain a little bit about liability and taking that chance on something. And I think that that is like something that Mark has a lot of experience in, and it's great to have that take on it.
And for the record, I want to say this out loud because I know you get a lot of hate comments on Facebook that it'll never work and all that. Neeraj, I truly hope that you succeed with this. I really do. So if you want to do like an update podcast in 3, 4, 5, 6 months or whatever, I would love to be back on and see like the next iteration of this. But like truly, man, I hope you succeed and I wish you all the best.
Yeah.
Thank you so
Don't
much,
let the
Mark.
haters get you down, man. They don't
Yeah.
know shit.
And Neeraj, I'm not going to say if, when this 3D printed engine comes to fruition, I want you to call me because we are going to find a way. We're going to put this in a car. I don't care whose car it is. I don't care if I have to buy Dave's Baja. We're going to put this engine in a car and we're going to run it. And we're going to prove that this is like a feasible thing. And I think that like you're one step closer with the oil pan and being able to test that and run it. And like, if you got to ship it to Dave and blow up a Baja, what is what it is, you know? I think that
it's safe to say the Baja is the podcast vehicle, because for how cheap that I bought the thing for anyone who doesn't know, it was $1,200.
Nice.
I have a hard time complaining about it.
Engine too, by the way. Like the Baja is cool and all, but have you guys seen those like boats that they have in like Thailand with the EJ on the back of it?
We were talking about it last
engine in one of those boats.
We were talking about it last episode.
Yeah,
you know
what? Around.
So funny side story. I reached out to a bunch of people in Thailand, and none of them speak English, so I wasn't able to get any of them on the podcast to talk about it. But Neeraj, I was in the 3D car parts school live session that they did last week, and there was a guy in there from Thailand who spoke English. And I said, I will pay you any amount of money if you can get me in touch with somebody in a boat that is running an EJ engine. I said, I don't care what it costs. I said, I need to know.
I've seen one.
Yeah.
I've seen a video of one guy using an EJ engine on a boat in Thailand with a stick.
Yeah. So I messaged people, but all the comments are in Thai, like whatever the language is.
Yeah.
Degress. I need to know the back of those EJs, how they mated up the propeller to the back of the engine. That's what I need to know. I have questions.
They just welded that thing together. Come on.
Probably. Just welded to the flywheel.
Straight welded. Come on.
Yeah.
We're talking low tech, high tech here, man.
Yeah, we're trying to do durability tests over here. I need to know long term.
They put that boost pill out. Let's go. Long ago.
My God,
man.
So
what's a boost pill? I don't know.
So, I think that would be a great topic. But again, Mark, I can't thank you enough.
Anytime, man.
If anybody on here doesn't know, Mark is our first sponsor and amazing. He kicked everything off for our group, and we really appreciate him. Dave is what happens when you meet Mark, because apparently they knew each other. Dave reached out.
And I guess,
yeah, Mark hit me up and told me there's this crazy guy in Arvada, Colorado, and he really wants to talk to you.
Crazy guy.
But no, it's been amazing, dude. And like, it's funny how these things work, because you introduced me to Dave, and look where we are. I mean, now Dave and I have been doing the podcast.
Yeah, I regret it.
Yeah.
No, it's awesome to see what you guys have done with the group, and you're sponsored Snowdrift, and you're at Boxer Fest. It's like nothing can stop you guys. It's super cool.
Quick note, Mark. We got I know you're kind of on the way to Snowdrift. We got one more seat in the car if you want to want to tag along, we can pick you
Are you
up.
driving?
Yeah,
We both
I'm
are.
driving from Colorado. I can pick you up.
Patrick was because of his awesome video. I didn't know you. I thought you said you weren't driving.
Awesome video.
And I can pick you up, buddy. I can pick you. Hey, I got 3 guys in my car, me included, 2 other guys, so 3 of us in my car in the Outback going out from Colorado.
Is it this weekend?
We're gonna have Mark. No, not this weekend. Next weekend.
Don't tempt me with a good time.
Hey, hit me up, Mark.
Mark, we
got space for you in the car.
We got a big Airbnb. It's a 6 bed with a hot tub, so we're chilling.
Hit me up, Mark. We got an extra seat. We got 1 extra seat for you, man.
Neeraj, I cannot thank you enough, man. You are amazing. Dude, I not only learn something every time you come on this podcast, but I am blown away of you as a person. Like your double neck guitar, your master's program, your ingenuity in what you're doing, like just the way that you handle yourself. Like I am just always impressed, always amazing. And like honestly, man, like I totally 100% back all of these projects. Anything I can do to help. Dave and I are on the same page. We love this. I think that what you're posting and the things that you're working on are just like, dude, it's just like I love cutting edge, and like this feels like you are just taking a step above what everybody else is doing in the industry. You look at these companies that have been printing the same parts for 10 years, 20 years on all these same cars, and you're like, I'm going to do my own thing. And I think it's amazing, and I think that everybody should take a card out of your book.
Patrick, I'm trying to keep the combustion engine alive.
Dude, I feel you. I hear that.
And you know what? Just bring a little bit of like aerospace engineering into, I think, an industry that needs it.
Yeah. And I think that, this episode has been a dream for me since we had you on, because I wanted to be able to have you and Mark meet and be able to have this conversation. So I think that we have all learned a lot from this episode, and I think it's been really cool to have you guys both on. So Dave and I appreciate it. And I think that, we're just excited to see where this goes. So, Mark, we're definitely going to take you up on having you back when Neeraj comes back on. And
awesome.
Call me.
We're definitely going to keep in the loop with you, Neeraj, and keep up to date. I'll keep an eye on the car parts group and see what you post in there. But yeah. So appreciate all you guys, and we're gonna call a wrap there. So thanks again.
Thanks so much,
guys.
You guys on the next one.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you guys.
You got it.
Yep. See you guys.